The life of Victoria, Princess Royal and German Empress. Victoria was the eldest child of Queen Victoria of the United Kingdom and Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. She was born on the 21st of November 1840. Her parents had hoped for a son and heir and were disappointed when their first child was a girl. Even the doctor that delivered the baby knew of the disappointment her birth would cause when he announced to the Queen that she had given birth to a daughter. Upon hearing that they had a daughter, the Queen remarked, "Don't worry, the next one will be a boy." Victoria was lovingly called Vicky by her family for the rest of her life. Though Victoria did love her daughter, her relationship with Vicky was distant, perhaps due to Victoria's own upbringing. Albert quickly devised an educational regime for his daughter. Vicky went to great lengths to please her parents and grew up to be an intelligent young woman on par with her father's intellect. Vicky learned everything from mathematics to philosophy and became very liberal in her thinking. From the age of 18 months, she began to learn French, and at the age of 4, she was fluent in both French and German. From a young age, Vicky's parents searched for a suitable husband for their daughter. Prince Frederick William of Prussia was chosen, and Vicky met him for the first time at the Great Exhibition in 1851. Eager to impress, Vicky made a good impression on the prince, and the pair remained in contact when the prince returned to Prussia, sending letters to each other. 4 years later, in 1855, Frederick returned to Britain and asked for the young princess's hand in marriage. At 15, she was too young to marry, and her parents asked that they wait until Vicky was 17. The Prussian court were outraged at the marriage proposal, believing the British monarchy to be weak as a constitutional monarchy. They also did not think that the Princess Royal was a suitable match for the future King of Prussia. The British press were also not a fan of the groom either. Vicky's own mother worried that her daughter was not beautiful and tall enough for the prince, but she needn't have worried. The pair were in love. For the next 2 years, the wedding details were finalized, with much arguments between the two families. Vicky wanted to bring 2 of her ladies-in-waiting with her to Prussia, but she was refused by her future in-laws. The Prussian royal family demanded that as the groom's family, they should have the final say in the wedding matters. They believed that the couple should wed in Prussia, but Queen Victoria was never one to not get her way and refused to allow the couple to wed outside Britain. Despite all the fighting in the families, Vicky and Frederick did have a fairy tale wedding in St. James's Palace on the 25th of January 1858. As the bride of a foreign prince, Vicky was to move to Prussia after the wedding. Though a wonderful start to their married life, things would only get worse for Vicky when she moved to Berlin, with her in-laws intent on making Vicky's life a living hell. Frederick's uncle, King Frederick William IV of Prussia, was not happy with the match, and he made it known through his actions. He gave the young couple a derelict wing of the Berlin royal palace. It was outdated and in disrepair. Vicky received a cold welcome from her new homeland, and high expectations of her duties were placed on her shoulders. She was expected to attend formal dinners and events almost every night, staying up past midnight before waking up at dawn to greet guests. In order to fit in with her new family, Vicky had to do things their way, oftentimes placing herself in her mother's wrath. When the Duchess of Orleans, a relative of both Vicky and Frederick, died, Vicky had to make a decision that would damn her no matter what she chose. The Prussian court mourned for a week, while the British court mourned for a month. Vicky chose to follow the Prussian court, and Queen Victoria berated her daughter for not following the English traditions, sending many demanding letters to her daughter, only stopping at the behest of Prince Albert. Vicky loved to garden and hoped to continue to do so in Prussia. She began to use English techniques on the gardens of her new home, but insulted the Prussian gardeners' gardening skills while doing so. Despite being members of the royal family, Vicky and Frederick struggled financially. The king gave Frederick an allowance, but it was not enough for the couple to make ends meet, as they were expected to dress finely. Vicky had to dip into her own dowry. Like her mother, Vicky had many children. Within a year of marriage, she was pregnant, and in January 1859 she gave birth to her first child, a son named Willem. Her first delivery was traumatic. The maid delayed getting a doctor when Vicky went into labour, and Vicky nearly died during the delivery. Her son was in the breech position, making the delivery long and difficult. Eventually her son was born, but with a nerve injury to his left arm, which left Willem with Erb's palsy. Vicky was embarrassed by her son's disability and felt it reflected badly on her. When she saw the extent of her newborn's disability, the doctors tried to console the princess, telling her that the arm would heal. It didn't, and by the time Willem was an adult, his left arm was much shorter than his right arm. Vicky went to extreme lengths to try to cure her son's disability, not wanting to accept her son as he was. She would tie his uninjured arm behind his back, hoping that by restricting that arm, he would have to use his left arm. Wilhelm was also subjected to electrotherapy almost every day of his young life, and animal baths, in which his left arm was placed in the body of a freshly slaughtered hare. These treatments were abusive and did not cure nor help his condition. They caused the prince great distress, and he grew to hate his mother. Vicky went on to have a further 7 children: Charlotte, Henry, Sigismund, Victoria, Valdemar, Sophia and Margaret. None of the other births were as traumatic as her first. In 1861, her father died suddenly at the age of 42, plunging her mother into deep mourning for the rest of her life. Vicky was devastated at the death of her beloved father, and she returned to Britain to comfort her grieving mother and family, and also to attend the funeral. In 1866, Vicky's 4th child, Sigismund, died tragically at the age of 21 months, after falling ill with meningitis. She received little support from those around her, and Vicky was left to mourn for the loss of her child by herself. Her youngest, Valdemar, would also tragically pass in 1879 at the age of 11, again receiving very little support from the Prussian court. One of Vicky's decisions would go on to have catastrophic consequences for Prussia, although that would not occur until well after Vicky's own death. She hired a tutor for her children, and Willem was influenced by him, believing in his own divine right to rule autocratically, which influenced how he would later rule in life. The people hated Vicky, and she tried everything to get them to like her. She set up a military hospital to tend to the wounded during the endless conflict that plagued her country. But the king demanded that she stop her theatrics of charity. Nothing she did would make the people like her, as she and her husband were liberal and the German people were not. Vicky's husband's health began to fail. Frederick had issues with his throat, and it would swell to the point where he had difficulty talking and breathing. The doctors diagnosed him with a cancerous tumour, recommending that he have it surgically removed. Despite the advice, Frederick and Vicky refused any treatment, which caused outrage amongst their surviving children. Willem travelled to see them and accused his mother of being happy that her husband was dying. Frederick's father, Willem I, died on the 9th of March 1888, and Frederick became Frederick III. Frederick was more of a shadow king, as he was gravely ill and would not be king for long. Vicky wanted to protect her legacy, knowing that once her son became king, he would destroy her reputation. She had boxes of her letters sent to Windsor Castle in Britain for safekeeping. Frederick ruled for only 99 days, dying on the 15th of June 1888. William became king and immediately betrayed his mother. He had her private residences ransacked and searched for incriminating information. Nothing was found due to Vicky's quick thinking. Vicky was excluded from court and worked for charitable organisations like the Red Cross. By 1898, her health had begun to fail. Vicky was suffering from terminal breast cancer, and she devoted her final years to art and spent long hours writing letters. Her illness often caused her to spend long hours in bed. Only months after her mother's own death, Vicky passed away on the 5th of August 1901. She was buried beside her husband in the Royal Mausoleum at Potsdam.